Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the FCERA Mid-Career Webinar. We're going to get started around 2:30, so we're still got some time, but I just wanted to thank you for being here. And just to let you know, if you have any questions during this presentation, feel free to ask, but utilize that question and answer function there to post your questions. We do have a retirement specialist that's in the chat that will be moderating the questions and answering them while the presentation is going on. And then after the presentation is finished, time permitting, we'll be answering questions out loud. So that way you can keep the questions coming. So it looks like we got about another 6 minutes before we get started. So just kind of sit back, relax, and I will be back with you all very shortly. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to FCERA's mid-career webinar. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Jared Wong. I'm the communications analyst here with FCERA. Today is going to be a pretty good presentation to kind of give you a good idea of what your retirement is and how it works for you, and kind of give you an overview of everything as far as planning for your retirement while in the midst of your career. Now, just a couple of things I want to go over with everybody. If you have any questions, please feel free to use that question and answer function to ask your questions there. We do have a retirement specialist, Matt Gonzalez, that's going to be moderating the chat. He specializes in the disability and divorce unit, so if you have questions about those in the presentation, you can definitely ask those, and he'll be able to answer those pretty well. So he'll be monitoring the questions throughout the presentation. After that, then we're going to just kind of open it up, and we're just going to answer as many questions as you have there, just out loud. So feel free to ask as many questions as you have. Another thing too, that PowerPoint presentation that I provided to you along with that FAQ sheet that you got when you registered for this webinar, those are also going to be good and handy, because the FAQ obviously has the most frequently asked questions, but in the actual PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to be alluding to this a lot. There's going to be links in that PDF that you can click on that will take you to our website or specific parts of our website for the pertaining to some of the maybe the policies or forms and stuff that I'm going to talk about in the presentation. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so what is on the agenda for today? So here's some of the stuff that we're going to cover in today's presentation. What is FCERA? What kind of services do we provide? What is a defined benefit plan, which is your retirement plan that you get from us? We're going to talk a little bit about membership investing, retirement eligibility, the retirement factors and benefit options, disability, death benefits, and divorce, the 3Ds, options after terminating employment. So what can you do with your retirement contribution if you happen to leave employment? And then finally, we're going to end with a little bit of financial planning and wellness education. So what is FCERA, or Fresno County Employees Retirement Association? Well, we are an independent public agency that's governed by the County Employees Retirement Law of 1937, also known as the CERA. We're also governed by the California Public Employers Pension Reform Act of 2013, known as PEPRA. We are a cost-sharing agency that deals with multiple employers, so we have 5 plan sponsors, and I'm going to mention those plan sponsors in an upcoming slide. And then we also pay out a retirement benefit known as the defined benefit plan. Our mission here at FCERA is to provide you secure retirement benefits and quality service to our members and beneficiaries while investing the assets of the plan within prudent levels of risk. So why we're all here is just to learn about our retirement, right? So let's get started of learning about what actually is a defined benefit plan. Well, no, I got ahead of myself. Excuse me. Hold on. I'm just excited to talk about that. So here in this slide here, this is just a little bit of a picture to kind of show you how FCERA works. So we're going to kind of get started here at the top left there. You see the picture of the members. That's you, and that's also me. I'm also a member. We make contributions to retirement to FCERA every pay period. As you can look on your pay stub, you see retirement deductions there. So we have our contributions to the plan. Then we take the employer contributions that the employer puts in, and then we add those to the FCERA fund, which those contributions are then invested, and they earn investment earnings plus interest into those funds. Then, as you can see, they kind of form in the middle from the investments and our contribution side. They all put into that FCERA fund, which funds our defined benefit plan, which pays you a benefit. Now I get to the slide that I want to talk about. Defined benefit plan. So what is a defined benefit plan? Well, a defined benefit plan is a lifetime benefit based on specific factors. So what this means is, once you meet the minimum retirement qualifications, you will get a benefit from us every month for the rest of your life. Now let that sink in for just a minute. You are getting a benefit for every month for the rest of your life. Now, how we calculate what your benefit is for your lifetime, your monthly allowance, is we look at different factors. This is a formula-based retirement plan. So the factors that we look at, we first look at what tier level and member classification that you fall under, which we're going to cover in just a little bit. But more importantly, these three factors that I'm going to mention right now are the three main drivers of how we calculate your monthly benefit. So the first one that we look at is years of service, or no, age of retirement, excuse me. The next one is years of service, or what we call service credit. And then finally, salary, or what we call final average compensation. Now we take those three factors there, and that's how we calculate what your monthly allowance is going to be for the remainder of your lifetime. Now, in order to receive any type of benefit from FCERA, you need to be vested in the plan. So we're going to be talking about what vesting means, and also in another couple of slides as well. Now, something to consider, especially right now, because this is the busiest time of the year for our office and for retirees, is if you happen to fall into tiers 1 through 3, there is a potential annual cost of living adjustment that you can receive every year, and you can receive up to a max of 3% per year that's approved by the Board of Retirement. Currently, this year, the 2021 cost of living is 1.5%. So anyone that's retired or plans to retire on or before April 1st of this year will get that 1.5%. Now, you may be asking, how do I find out what tier level I'm in? Well, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can look on your pay stub. It should tell you on your pay stub. You can also look on the FCERA member portal if you have an account with that, registered with that, or you can call our office and we can get that information for you. Let's see. Okay. The next thing here is membership in FCERA. So membership in FCERA is mandatory if you were at least 50% or more of full-time employed. So there's not actually anything that you have to do on your part when you were hired. You're automatically enrolled if you meet that qualification. Now, if someone happened to fall in one of these two potential categories here, if you were age 60 at higher date, or you're an elected official, you have the option to elect out of FCERA retirement as a one-time deal. So, but if you choose to opt out, you can't opt back in. Now, contributions are taken every pay period. As you all can probably have already figured that out, as most of you in this webinar are already in the midst of your career with at least 5 years of service. So as you can see, you can, on your pay stub, it's been taken out every pay period. And then right there, I also have a link that you can click on in the PDF that takes you to our contribution spot there on our website. Now, I mentioned earlier that we have 5 plan sponsors. As you can see on the screen right there, the County of Fresno is our biggest plan sponsor. The Superior Courts of California, the County of Fresno, Fresno Madera Area Agency on Aging, Fresno Mosquito and Vector Control District, and then the Clovis Veterans Memorial District rounds out our plan sponsors for the FCERA plan. The next thing here is membership tiers and classifications. So inside our whole FCERA pension plan, we have multiple tier levels and 2 types of memberships, general and safety. General tier has 5 tiers, 1 through 5. Safety tiers has tiers 1, 2, 4, and 5. Now, a question that we do get asked a lot is, how do I know if I'm safety or general? Well, on the screen right there in your PowerPoint slide, I have listed there the jobs there for safety. So safety tier has the job classifications such as sheriff's officers, correctional officers, DEA investigators, firefighters, criminologists, chief of investigations, and deputy sheriffs. General members, it's everybody else. So that list would be way too long to put that out there. So some examples of general members would be staff analysts, retirement specialists, account clerks, office assistants, eligibility workers, executive assistants, accountants, and so forth. Basically, if you don't see your job title right there under the safety column, you are classified as a general member. Now, I mentioned this earlier on one of the beginning slides as far as what a defined benefit plan is, and that you need to be vested in order to receive any type of funds from FCERA. So how do you become vested? Well, you're fully vested in your pension after 5 years of service. So once you get hired from a FCERA plan sponsor, your first big thing is just, hey, I need to hit that 5-year mark right there. That's going to be your first milestone of your FCERA membership career, is getting vested. So once you hit that 5-year mark, you're entitled to a lifetime monthly allowance upon retirement eligibility. Reciprocity can be considered towards vesting as well. And we're going to cover later on in the presentation what reciprocity is and how that could apply to you later on. And like I mentioned, this is a milestone as a FCERA member. So reciprocity will be covered toward the end of the presentation, where we're talking about terminating employment, because that's also a possibility of what can happen. So here on this slide here, this is just a general table with the different retirement eligibility requirements for general and safety members in the following tiers. So if you look here, if you fall under general tiers 1 through 4, the main minimum requirements to retire and receive a benefit from us is age 50 with 10 plus years of service. General tier 5, age 52 with at least 5 years of service. Safety tiers 1, 2, and 4, same as general tiers 1 through 4, age 50 with 10 years of service. And then finally, safety tiers 5 is age 50 with 5 years of service. Now, these are the minimum requirements that you need just to retire and draw a monthly lifetime benefit. Depending on when you choose to retire, that's going to affect what your monthly benefit will look like. Because remember, we're looking at a formula-driven. It's formula-driven to determine what your monthly benefit is. So we look at your age, we look at how many years of service you have with the plan sponsor. And I say plan sponsor because while the County of Fresno is our biggest plan sponsor, we do have other members in the courts and California, Clovis Veterans Memorial District, FM AAA, and Fresno Mosquito and Vector Control District. And we do have some of them in this webinar today. So I just want to make sure I mention plan sponsor. So depending on if you would like to have, more benefit, I mean, it just depends on when you want to retire. And we're going to cover all that stuff and what you could expect to look like at the end, toward when we get there. So give me just 1 second here. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Okay, so that's just this here is just a minimum bare requirements to retire if you fall depending on whatever membership classification and tier level that you fall under. So here on this next slide, we have screen froze. Uh-oh, screen froze. That's no good. Oh, that's not good. Hold on. See, I'm monitoring the chat, and I'm monitoring the chat, even though we have someone there monitoring. So bear with us, guys. It could be just buffering, internet and everything, with this whole working from home and teleworking and virtual stuff. So just bear with us, guys. It's, thank you. I'm back now. I appreciate that. So yes, just so you guys know as well, this presentation will be recorded. It is being recorded and will be uploaded later. So don't worry about that. It will be uploaded later. So anyways, let's kind of just go. Let's get back on track here. Career milestones. So this here is a slide that just kind of breaks down the different milestones that you can have in your career while getting started from your first date of hire right there. That's your first career milestone. The second bullet point there is when you become a member of FCERA. So a lot of people don't know when they first get hired that you actually don't become a member and start of FCERA and start accruing your retirement service credit until the first day of the second pay period. So that's what we have up there as your second milestone. The third career milestone, which is probably one of the bigger ones there, is the vesting period. When you hit that 5 years of service. And then following the next milestone will vary depending on what tier and what tier that you fall into. So on those 4th and 5th dots there on the milestone, I have your first retirement eligibility date, whether that you fall into tiers 1 through 4 for safety in general at age 50 with 10 years of service, or safety tier 5 with age 50 with 5 years of service, or if you are general tier 5, age 52 with age 52 with 5 years of service. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Okay. So the next thing here is types of retirement. So the types of retirement that we have here at FCERA are, we have 2 types. We have service retirement and we have disability retirement. And the disability retirement is broken down to 2 types: service-connected disability and non-service-connected disability. Now, you all are in for a great treat here today, because the retirement specialist, Matt Gonzalez, that's in the chat here monitoring your questions that you're asking for today, specializes in the disability and divorce unit. So if you have disability and divorce questions, this is your lucky day. You can ask all these questions and he'll be able to answer those for you. So if you don't have any questions now, but you have some after the presentation, he'll hop into the call here, and he'll be able to kind of walk you through some of your questions that you may have. So the first thing about service retirement, like I mentioned, it's a formula to how we calculate your lifetime benefit. So I mentioned earlier, the formula that we look at is, we look at those 3 factors there: your age factor, the amount of service credit that you have, and then your final average compensation. So as you can see, we take those 3 factors, multiply them all together, and that's how we come out with your FCERA monthly benefit. Now, we're going to take a look here at each factor and kind of break this stuff down here. So the factor here that we're going to look at the start here is age. So your age can help increase your benefit. So basically, the older that you do get, your benefit does increase slightly. So age factor increases in quarter-year increments up to your tier's maximum age factor. So for example, I mentioned earlier that tiers, if you're a general tier 1, we're just going to go with a general tier 1 here. So general tier 1's minimum retirement requirements is that you need to be at least age 50 with 10 years of service. So age 50 is the minimum age requirement. Now, starting at age 50, every age quarter, your benefit will increase because your age increases. So at 50 and a quarter, 50 and a half, 50 and 3/4, or then up to age 51, every quarter it increases all the way up until age, I believe it's 60 for tier 1, and then it hits that age cap. Each tier has kind of a different age cap, but that's kind of what we're getting at here. Your age factor increases in quarter-year increments, which can help you increase what your benefit will look like. Now, I have in the PowerPoint slide right there, view percentage of final compensation rates in our active members handbook with the link. That link there is going to take you to our active members handbook. That's going to show you the percentage of a member's final compensation at a certain age with the years of service. So I actually did a little summary there with that table right there on the right-hand side. I took an example of what the percentage of a member's final compensation would be at age 55 with 10 years of service in every different tier that we offer. So if you're a general tier 1 member and you want to retire at age 55 with 10 years of service, you will get 25% of whatever your final average compensation is. And then tier 2 will get 20%, tier 4, 14.92%, tier 5, 13%, and so forth. So you can actually check what your estimated percentage of your final compensation is through our members handbook, or I'm going to go over a little bit later how you can actually get a little bit more of a more accurate number of what to help you plan for that retirement. Okay, so the second factor that we're going to look at is service credit. Basically, that's what service credit, or what we call years of service, is the time you earn by working and contributing during your membership. So your service credit starts at the date of membership, which I showed in that career milestone timeline there. The date of membership starts on the first day of the second pay period. So that's what is that's when you start accruing that service credit. Service credit is measured in years, and then earning service credit stops at a couple different instances. So you stop earning service credit at termination, or if you take a leave of absence where no contributions were made, meaning that you were not receiving a check from your employer where you made enough to have retirement contributions being taken out. Or you stop earning service credit when your employment drops below 50% of full time. Now, with that, if you happen to take a leave, that actually leaves into my next section here, service credit purchase. So I would imagine that in your workplace, you've probably heard some of your coworkers mention the word, may not mention service credit purchase, but may mention the word buyback. Well, that's the same thing here. Service credit purchase is something that your service credit can be increased if you happen to purchase eligible time that you may have throughout your career. This can also count toward making you vested in the plan. So here in the middle of the screen here, I have the service credit available for purchase. These are all the available service credits that a member can purchase throughout their career. Now, they may not all apply to you because they're all specific. So the first one there is new hire periods. This here is the first pay period of permanent employment working 50% or more of full time. Now, everybody gets this one. Everybody gets at least one service credit that they can purchase, and that's this period here. You can purchase your new hire period to add back to your retirement. So that would be just adding your first pay period to your retirement, your service credit. If you happen to work part-time or extra help prior, that can be purchased. Redeposit of withdrawn funds. So that means if you worked for a FCERA plan sponsor, you left, took your money refunded your contributions out of the system, and then came back to a FCERA plan sponsor, we could actually calculate and became a member again, I should say. I gotta be very specific about that. Came back, we could calculate how much it would cost you to put that money back in as if you never left. So you would regain those years of service. And then finally, prior public service. Now, I have in parentheses there, it's only for the California Superior Courts and special districts. Unfortunately, the County of Fresno employees are no longer allowed to purchase prior public service. Now, the more common one there, leave of absence, medical leaves, and then we have military leaves as well that can be purchased and added back to your retirement. Personal or educational leaves cannot be purchased. So those are not eligible. Those do not count. So just keep those in mind. Okay. How would you go about purchasing service credit if you happen to have a medical leave of absence or you wanted to purchase that new hire time or extra help time? Well, it's actually very simple. So you can just complete the request for service credit calculation form that can be found on our website. You can actually click that link right there that's in the PowerPoint presentation, and it will take you to the form. So you just print that form out, fill it out, send it to us. Once we get that form, our benefit support staff will calculate how much available time that you have to purchase, and then they will send you a quote. I will send you a letter with a quote. That quote is going to tell you the amount of time that it's available for you to purchase, the cost of those, and then it's also going to show the different payment options. Now, once you receive that quote in the mail from us, you do not have an obligation to purchase that if you choose not to. So you can get that contract, and if you're not interested, you can throw it away. Now, depending on the amount of time that you're purchasing and the cost, there's a possibility that you can make payments, but those options will be broken down to you in that contract that you receive from us. Now, another important note here, if you want to purchase your service credit, let's say you're purchasing some medical leave that you're out or purchasing your extra help time, you can also use your deferred compensation plan as well to pay for your service credit for your buyback to add back to your retirement. So that's also an option for you. And then finally, we're going to look at the last factor here that we use to calculate your monthly lifetime benefit. This factor here is final average compensation. So final average compensation or salary is calculated a little different depending on the tier that you're in. So as you guys can see there on the screen and in your PowerPoint, you have a table there that's broken down for each tier and how the final average compensation is calculated. So we'll look at the first one here is tiers 1 and 2. So tiers 1 and 2 look at your highest 365 consecutive days at any point in your career to calculate what your final average compensation is. Tier 2, or tier 3 and 4, excuse me, take the average of the highest 3 non-overlapping 1-year periods. Okay. And then finally for tier 5, we take the average of the highest consecutive 3 years period of pensionable compensation. So as you can see, each tier is a little different on how we get to that, whatever that final compensation is, to whatever that final compensation is to get to that point, to add to the other factors of age and years of service. So as you can see there, included in your final average compensation if paid during your final compensation period is your base pay, and then plus any pensionable earn codes that can be found throughout your pay. Now, some of those pensionable earn codes, there's a million of them. I don't mean that literally, but there's a lot. You can actually click on that link there. That will take you to the pensionable earn code policy to show you the different earn codes. A big misconception is people think overtime is included. It is not. It is not. So let's just get that out there. Overtime is not included. Now, if you have any questions about your final average compensation, please contact our office, speak to our retirement specialist. They can look at your account and they can look at all that information for you and kind of get that answered for you to help you out. Okay, so this presentation is kind of giving you a general overview of your retirement options. And your whole retirement as a whole here. So here on this slide here, I have a summary of all the different options that we offer here. Now, I'm going to just kind of give you a generic background of each option, how they entail. I'm not going to go into them in super detailed. Now, you can actually find this chart blown up on our website. So you can go to active members, the active members section on our website at FresnoCountyRetirement.org and look under the benefit options tab, and you should be able to print out or save a PDF copy of this, not of this PowerPoint slide, but of a bigger chart here of the different options that gives you a summary of what they are. Also as well, and I'll let you guys know later when I have the recording uploaded as well. I started a Lunch and Learn webinar series last month where I'm going to take one retirement topic and talk about that topic during the lunch period and then have a Q&A after. The first webinar I did was benefit options, where we covered what these options are in detail. You can actually find that on our YouTube page. If you search Fresno County Retirement on YouTube, you should see the FCERA video up there. It's uploaded there for you guys can go watch and learn about the different options more in detail. But let's kind of just give you a little summary of what these options are. The unmodified option is probably one of the more popular options that we get in our office that members select. This option here pays the highest benefit available to you based off of those factors that I mentioned earlier, and I keep hammering those factors of age, years of service, and final compensation. The unmodified option allows you to leave a lifetime continuance to an eligible beneficiary. That eligible beneficiary is a spouse or a minor child. A non-eligible beneficiary would receive a lump sum of remaining contributions and interest if there is any at the time of the member's death. This option also is one of two only options that allow you to change your beneficiary after retirement. Now, the next one there is option 1. This is the only option that we offer at FCERA that does not have some type of survivor continuing benefit. This option here pays a reduced benefit. The beneficiary can be anyone. What this option does here in the case of the member's death, it pays out a lump sum of the remaining contributions balance and interest. Now, because this doesn't pay out a survivor continuance, the contribution bucket is used up a lot slower with this option, meaning that if a member selects this option, there's approximately it lasts about 15 to 18 years to potentially leave a little something to that beneficiary of choice. Along with the unmodified option, this is another option that allows you to change your beneficiary after retirement. So, with said, that option one there is usually only selected amongst single members. Usually single members that maybe have an adult child as their beneficiary. That's the option that we see. That's most of the time that we do see that. A married couple can select that option, but the spouse has to sign a notarized waiver waiving their right to a lifetime benefit by doing so. Now, the other options there that you see on the screen, 2, 3, and 4, they all have things in common. So the couple things they have in common is they all provide some type of continuing benefit. Options 2 and 3, or option 2 provides a 100% continuance to your beneficiary of choice that you have listed at the time that you listed as your at the time that you retire. This is the most reduced benefit for one reason. So options 2, 3, and 4 look at you and your beneficiary. It looks at the age difference between you and that beneficiary. The bigger the age difference between you and that beneficiary, the bigger of a hit that you will take on your benefit alone. Now, for option 2, continuance can be less than 100% if the beneficiary is a non-spouse. And the other common factor with options 2, 3, and 4 is once you elect this option, you cannot change your beneficiary at any point. It is set in stone. So option 3, very similar to option 2. It's a reduced benefit. This option provides a 50% continuance instead of a 100%. And then option 4, this is one that we really don't see in our office that much, but because it is a customized actuarial calculation based on specific instruction. Most of the time we see an option 4 that is used to comply with a marital settlement agreement due to a divorce. But this option also allows you to have a customization of retirement for multiple beneficiaries. So you can list them more than one beneficiary to get some type of continuing benefit. But the more beneficiaries that you list there and the bigger the age difference, that's also going to have an impact on what your benefit is per month. So like I mentioned, there is a video on our YouTube channel that goes over these benefit options in more detail. You can look that up, or I can definitely forward that to you if you email me personally later. I can get that video to you. So the next thing here is, how much is my benefit at retirement? The most commonly asked question in our office that we get called on once a week, probably. How much is my benefit going to be if I retire at this point, this point? Well, there's a way that you can do this from your own home or work, your phone, wherever, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. And that is the FCERA member portal. Now, how do you get access to that member portal? Go to our website, FresnoCountyRetirement.org. There's going to be a button at the top right screen that says Member Portal. If you have not registered, you will need to register, and you will need a unique identifier number to complete this registration. That number, unique identifier, is a number that's specifically assigned to your account, and it is not the same as everybody else. You need that number to finish your registration. So, if you have not registered for the member portal, that's okay. There's 2 ways you can get that unique identifier. Call our office or send us an email with your work address. It will not work. We will not provide your unique identifier if you send it with a personal email address. It needs to come from your work email address. Or you could give a call to our office and we can get that number for you to register for the portal. Now, why would you want to register for this portal? Well, because this member portal is single-handedly your best financial planning tool for your FCERA retirement benefit. This will allow you to look at a bunch of different features. So you can look at who your most current beneficiary is in our system. So a lot of people may not know who their beneficiary is with us, because they assume if they changed it with their HR department that they give us that information. That's not correct. If you change it with your HR department, you're going to have to change it with us as well. So that's one way. That's one thing that you could do in the member portal, is look up beneficiary information. The bigger thing here is calculating retirement benefit estimates. So you can use the calculator there to calculate what your earliest retirement plan is. You can calculate to see what your benefit would be at age 55, 60, or whatever date that you choose. And when you calculate that time, it's also going to break down the different options and an estimated amount for those options that are available to you. Now, a question that we do get asked a lot is, hey, how accurate is the member portal? Well, the member portal is pretty accurate because the member portal pulls that information from our pension software to give you a pretty good estimate. It would be the same amount as if you were to call our office and talk to a specialist and they ran a quick estimate for you. So it is very accurate. So that's another huge thing that you have at your fingertips to help plan right there, because it's always good to know what your planning stages are and looking what my benefit's going to be at this age or this time to kind of give you an idea of what you need to do. And then also you can view your contribution balance. So you can see how much you've contributed to the plan throughout your career, how much you're contributing per pay period, and so forth. It's a really good tool. I recommend that if you have not registered, please register for that and start using it. Here's just a screenshot of our website there with a little arrow. That's where you would click to go to the member portal login. And then if you haven't registered, register. Get that unique identifier from us. You can either email me or call the office. Excuse me. And we can get that to you. Okay. The next thing here is disability retirement. So we went over the service retirement. Now we're going to kind of get into disability retirement here. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but like I mentioned, you guys are in a great spot today because the retirement specialist that is moderating the chat, Matt Gonzalez, he is one of our seasoned specialists that handles the divorce and disability units. So he can answer any questions that you have. So disability retirement. If you become disabled and unable to perform essential functions of your job, you may be eligible for a disability retirement. You can apply by completing a disability application that's found on our website, which I've linked there for you, that you can look there and you can look at the application and print that out, fill it out, send it to us. The two types of disability retirements that we have, service-connected disability or SCD, or non-service-connected disability, NSCD. The FCERA disability retirement policy can also be found on our website with the link there. And then shortly, we will also have a disability flowchart on our website as well. But that disability policy right there that I have linked right there will cover the entire process from start to finish because it is a process and there's a lot of things that have to go through to get to the end game here and potentially be granted a disability retirement. The Board of Retirement are the ones that make that jurisdiction as far as granting whatever disability retirement that the member is applying for, service-connected or non-service-connected. Now, let's look at what a service-connected disability is. Service-connected disability, and this is going to be very similar to non-service. Basically, you're unable to perform the essential functions of your specific job due to injury or illness. The word incapacitated is thrown out a lot. Basically, a service-connected disability is your job caused or substantially contributed to your injury or illness. Now, as I mentioned that word earlier, it's right there. Member must be permanently incapacitated. Temporarily disabled is not applicable for a SCD. Now, for a service-connected disability, there is no minimum service credit requirement. Service-connected disabilities, pay 50% of final average compensation or service retirement benefit amounts if eligible, whichever the amount is greater. Now, if you have any more questions about that, you can pop them in the chat there, and Matt will be able to answer them, or he can actually, we may be able to talk about a little bit more about that later after the presentation. Non-service connected disability. Same things apply. You're unable to perform the essential functions of your specific job due to injury or illness. The member must be permanently incapacitated and temporarily disabled does not apply. Now, the only difference here from the SCD to the NSCD, or non-service connected disability, is in order to be granted a non-service connected disability, you do need to be vested. So you need to have a minimum of 5 years of service credit. Now, the calculation for a non-service connected disability varies because it depends on the age and years of service and can be up to 1/3 of the member's final average compensation or your service retirement benefit amount, whichever is greater. Like I mentioned, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat here, or call our office or email our office with these questions and we can get those answers for you. Now, the next one here is death benefits before retirement. So it's kind of a little bit of a, if you happen to, something were to happen to you, there are benefits that can be payable out to your beneficiary, as I have aligned here on the screen. And I'm going to kind of go through each of the options here. Now, if you're an active member that's vested with 5 years or more, there's 3 options that are available for your named beneficiary, an eligible spouse or a minor child. That's the qualified beneficiary. So if you take option 1, which can be anybody, does not have to be a qualified beneficiary, that beneficiary gets a return of employee contributions plus interest, and then up to 6 months of the employee's salary, if in the case of the member's death, if they were to pass as an active member. If they have an eligible beneficiary or qualified beneficiary, they have 2 other options here. The second option is that option 2, which provides the beneficiary a monthly survivor's allowance benefit. The third option there they can choose as well is they will get a reduced monthly survivor's allowance benefit and then up to 6 months of the employee's salary. Now, this is only if you have a member that passed away as an active employee with at least 5 years or more service. Now, if there was a case where we had an active member with less than 5 years of service, the benefit for that beneficiary would be they would get the return of the employee contributions and interest and up to 6 months of employee salary. The deferred members, if we had deferred members that were to pass before retirement, and deferred members means terminated employment, they would get back the return of the employee. The beneficiary would get the return of employee contributions and interest. Now, a non-service connected death would be member must have at least 5 years of service. Spouse or minor children must be a beneficiary to receive 60% continuance of a non-service connected death or a service retirement, whichever is greater. Service connected death, you don't have to be vested with 5 years of service, so very similar to the non-service and service-connected death, very similar to the disability aspect with those qualification right there. But then for the service-connected death, spouse or minor child must be a beneficiary to receive a 100% continuance of the SCD retirement or service retirement, whichever is greater. Now, if you have any more questions about these options, you can always call our office and we can definitely answer those for you. So, death benefits, again, just wrapping up with this, is naming your beneficiary. So this is actually very, very important. Death benefits are payable to your designated beneficiary, and the beneficiary can be anyone. Benefits are eligible if you are vested, non-vested, active, or a deferred member. So the big thing here, the big key from this is you want to always make sure that you keep your beneficiary up to date with us. Updating your beneficiary with your employer does not update it with FCERA. So if you ever want to change it, you need to always fill out a beneficiary change form. You could check who your current beneficiary is through the member portal, or you can give us a call. And then change of beneficiary form there, I've linked. So if you do want to update your beneficiary, you just need to fill out that form, sign it, and mail it in. Unfortunately, we need that form as an original signature because you're updating your beneficiary for potential benefits, so it cannot be emailed in. It does need to be mailed in or dropped off at our Dropbox at our office. So that's also another important thing, is just make sure you always keep your beneficiary up to date. All right, to round out the 3 Ds, we talked about disability retirement. We talked about death benefits, and now we're going to talk about divorce. So, Divorce, California in general, is a community property state. An ex-spouse may be entitled to an interest in your retirement benefit. So if you happen to have a divorce at your county during your county time, I should say, and it's not all county employees in here. If you happen to have a divorce during your FCERA membership, or you're in the process of potentially going through a divorce, notify FCERA as soon as possible. So because each case is unique and must be reviewed by a divorce unit. So FCERA is only interested in marriages that occurred during your FCERA membership. And then outstanding divorce documents may delay your retirement benefit. So, example, if you're going through the retirement process and you tell us during the counseling session, you tell the retirement specialist, hey, I had a divorce in my second year in as a new employee. Well, you need to get us those documents, because the longer that you wait and we don't get those documents, you will keep waiting and will not receive pay, because we need to see if your ex-spouse is owed anything from your retirement. So it's always important, if you had a divorce, provide us the finalized divorce documents to our office so we can get those reviewed by our divorce unit, and we can have those in your file. So later on, when you're ready to retire, that's something that you don't have to worry about. So a couple of common divorce documents would be the judgment of dissolution, the attachment to the judgment, or the marital settlement agreement. Division of retirement benefits do require certain documents. They require the joinder and the court filed domestic relations order, or the DRO. We have linked there what our divorce policy is, and the sample documents are also available on our website. And like I mentioned, if you have any questions, please contact our divorce unit at our office. If you have any generic divorce questions that you don't mind putting in the Q&A, we do have our divorce specialist that's in the chat there moderating questions, so you can drop that in there. And I see you guys have some questions in there. We'll get to those in a little bit, so don't worry. We will cover all your questions. Don't worry. Okay, so terminating employment is the next part here of the presentation. What are my options? So here is just what we're going to cover. Like, what happens if you were to leave employment and go, what happens to your retirement contributions? Well, because we all know life happens, change happens, career moves, things like that. They all happen. So these are the different options that are available to you if you were to leave employment, what you can do with your retirement contributions. So the first one is refund of contributions. You may only take what you've contributed and the associated interest if you choose to refund your contributions in the plan. You are not entitled to the employer's contributions. So just keep in mind, if you terminate employment and you want to withdraw all your funds, you can only take out what you've contributed and the associated interest. Funds can only be withdrawn at separation. So this brings up another good point. We do get asked a lot, hey, can I borrow against my retirement? The answer is no, you cannot, unfortunately. There's only two instances that you have access to your funds. If you terminate employment, you have one of these options that you can choose, or if you go through the process of retirement and start drawing a monthly lifetime benefit. Unfortunately, you cannot borrow against your funds. You can do that with your deferred comp plan with your employer, if your employer does have deferred comp. For county employees, for example, you can talk to Nationwide about that. And it goes without saying, if you decide to refund your contributions, you forfeit a potential lifetime monthly benefit. Now, there's a couple different refund options that are available to you. So the first one is direct distribution. Basically means we cash you out and you receive a check in the mail. If you want to go that route, there's a mandatory 20% federal tax withholding and then optional state tax withholding. Now you could choose to roll over those funds to meaning that you're transferring the funds to a qualified retirement account to avoid potential withdrawal penalties and taxes, such as like a 401k, 403b, 457, stuff like that. You can do so. Or you can do a partial distribution and partial rollover. So we have seen people do that as well, where we can see people transfer, let's say 70% to a 401k and 30% comes into their bank account, or they're a direct check to them, I should say, not a bank account. The second option that you have if you were to leave employment is deferral. Now, deferring means leaving contributions on deposit. So basically, if you want to elect this option, your money that just means your money sits with us. It sits in the FCERA plan. You can still refund your contributions at any time and waive the right to a potential future payment. So the one thing that you will get if you were to leave employment and you are not going to retire yet, we're going to ask you what you want us to do with these contributions. So we're going to send you a form called the Disposition of Retirement Contributions form that can also be found on our website. You're going to elect what option that you want. So if you pick deferral, and then later on you want to withdraw your funds or roll over those funds to something else, you can. You would just need to fill out that form and elect that option. Now, benefits of deferring. If you're vested with 5 years of service, you can defer until retirement and receive a monthly lifetime benefit. So let's just say, for example, that I'm a general tier 5 member. The minimum requirements is age 52 with 5 years. So let's say I'm at 5 years and I'm 40 years old. Let's say then I decide to leave FCERA membership and go work in the private sector. And I decide to just defer my retirement. I can come back at age 52 and start drawing my benefit and get a payment from FCERA every month for the rest of my life. And it'll be calculated based off of my age of 52 with my 5 years of service and whatever my final average compensation is for those 5 years that I worked. Now, if you're not vested, you can return to work for a FCERA plan sponsor and become vested or establish reciprocity with the California Public Agency. So we also see that happen as well. And we're going to cover reciprocity because that's actually the third point that we do have here. So reciprocity. This may apply to you. Some of you today could apply to you in the future because, this is a mid-career webinar, so that's why we're putting this out there. But it may already have been established for you prior to coming to your FCERA employer, or it could be, in the future. So reciprocity is the linking of 2 or more participating California public agencies. This protects the value of your pension and encourages a career in the public sector. Now, some of the agencies that we can establish this reciprocal reciprocity link with is any county in California, many cities and municipalities, so including the city of Fresno, any CalPERS managed agency. So it includes many more than just state employees. Any agency or local government that has an agreement in CalPERS, CalSTRS, and the judge's retirement system. Now, how would I go about establishing this reciprocal link? Well, here are the steps that is needed. You first need to terminate with your first California public agency and leave the contributions on deposit with them. Then you must establish with a new membership at a new California public agency or new association within 6 months of leaving the prior. Once you're established, you must retire from all systems on the same day. So you need to make sure that you retire from System A and from us on the same day. And just to keep in mind, reciprocity is optional, so you don't have to establish this link if you choose not to. But I'm going to go over why you should consider it. So some of the advantages of establishing reciprocity go as followed. Years of service or service credit. So your years of service will be added together from all systems to determine vesting and retirement eligibility. Your salary or final average compensation. So your benefit will be based on the highest final average compensation at any linked agency. Now, contribution rates, depending on the tier that you're in, FCERA will use members' entry age from reciprocal agency to determine contribution rates. But mostly it's those first 2 there. So I'm going to give you just a real quick and brief example. So the state of California is under the CalPERS system, which is one agency that we can establish this reciprocity with. So let's just say I worked at the state of California for 3 years, and then I left, and let's just say I came to the county of Fresno, and I stayed here for the rest of my career at 30 years, and I established reciprocity. So, excuse me. Oh, thank you. Excuse me. So let's say I established reciprocity. I only worked 3 years at PERS. PERS has the same vesting period as us, as 5 years. By establishing this link, PERS and FCERA are going to talk to each other. CalPERS can use the 30 years of service that I earned working as at the County of Fresno as a FCERA member to make me eligible to be vested under their plan. And then also salary is also going to be considered as well. So let's say under the CalPERS plan, my highest salary is $40,000. And then let's say by the time I worked the 30 years at the County of Fresno, my highest salary is $80,000. Both FCERA and CalPERS will use that $80,000 salary to calculate your benefit. So now, just by establishing that reciprocal link, you're going to get a benefit from CalPERS based off of the 3 years that you actually worked from them and the $80,000 salary from FCERA plus into their formula that they have. And then FCERA is going to calculate your benefit based off of age, years of service, and salary. So you're going to get 2 checks when you retire. You're going to get one from PERS, one from us. So that's kind of roughly how reciprocity works. Now, disadvantages of establishing reciprocity. So this all means is if you break reciprocity, this could be bad because it can have a negative impact on your retirement. So it can change a change in your age-based contribution rate. So if you happen to establish reciprocity, let's say if you were in an older tier and you were 25 when you worked at CalPERS, but then you came over to the County of Fresno at age 27, but you're in an age-based contribution tier. By establishing that link, you would FCERA would change your age of membership to 25. So you would be paying contributions at age 25 instead of age 27. If you happen to break reciprocity, then you would have to be paying contributions at age 27 and not 25. Depending on when you broke reciprocity, you may have to make up for those under contribution payments that you did not make for the amount of time from between the ages of 25 and 27. So it could really put a financial impact on you to having to pay contributions back into the system that you would have paid if the reciprocity was not established. And it also may affect your ability to retire in these systems. So I mentioned like using those years of service to make you vested and everything. If you break reciprocity and you were relying on the other agency to make you vested, it could really affect on that. So that's another thing. And then you will no longer share highest final average compensation. If you try to refund your contributions, you have reciprocity, you cannot refund your contributions from the previous agency until you refunded your contributions with the most current agency. And then disability retirement. Your benefit may be adjusted based on your awarded disability benefit from the reciprocal agency. So that, with that said, that last bullet point, you would need to contact our office about that. That's a little bit more of a discussion in itself. Okay, so we've gotten through pretty good. We're through this webinar today, so thank you guys for all hanging in there. We're actually toward the last part here, and then we're gonna just have a Q&A basically. So the last part here that I wanted to kind of touch upon here is financial planning and wellness. Because this is a mid-career seminar, or webinar, I should say, and this is based off of everyone in the midst of their career, you know, I would imagine a lot of you are not looking to retire immediately soon. You're starting to look at the planning stage, trying to understand everything. Well, your FCERA pension is only one part of the equation. There's other factors that need to be considered. So this is what I'm going to cover with some financial planning and wellness education. Now, this is just educational tips. This is not me saying, hey, you should do this. You know, this is all education that's out there for everybody, but I thought it's definitely useful for this as far as planning for your retirement one day. So financial planning or wellness is the overall financial health of an individual. So why should you consider what your financial health is? Well, it's important because if you don't know what your financial health is, you can't plan for the future. So this can help plan for your future. And it can also help and avoid common issues that employees see across the country and the world, I should say. So one of the most common factors is stress. So stress is a huge issue for financial wellness and health. Health and diet, depression and anxiety, poor job performance because you can't concentrate because you're always focused about money, and then life events, divorce, medical, family, etc. So I just pulled off a couple of surveys that I've been doing because and I read. So according to Nielsen data, the American Payroll Association, Career Builder, and the National Endowment for Financial Education, Roughly 50 to 78% of Americans lived paycheck to paycheck prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. So think about that for a minute. Prior to this pandemic that took place, started about a year ago from today, 50 to 78% of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck. Almost 3 in 10 adults have no emergency fund that covers at least 3 months of expenses. And then in a recent survey from Career Builder, more than 70% of respondents say that they are in debt. Like I mentioned, your income during retirement, your FCERA pension is only a portion of your whole retirement income. As you can look on this pyramid here, the FCERA pension is your bottom, your foundation, but you have other aspects of that pyramid to help with your income during retirement. So some financial advisors say that you need at least 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income as retirement income. So that begs to ask the question, how much income do I need? Well, keep in mind that your FCERA pension may not be enough to cover your financial needs when you retire. So now's the time, while you're in the midst of your career, to kind of get an idea of what you're looking at to determine what steps you need to take for the future. So a couple of other things there that are going to fill out that pyramid for your income for retirement is deferred compensation, if you happen to have that. Savings and personal investments. So if you have other investments that you're doing or just savings itself, and then Social Security is at the top there if you happen to get Social Security. So those kind of fill out what your income is going to look like for retirement. Now, being prepared for retirement or just being prepared for financially in life. So having a plan, budget. Oh boy, the dreaded B word. Nobody likes to hear this word. Another thing about being prepared for financial wellness, debt management, savings or emergency fund. And then finally, we're going to talk about deferred compensation a little bit. So why have a plan? Well, think about it. What are your goals? So this is the first thing to think about in the midst of your career, especially seeing, what I'm a former retirement specialist. I've retired hundreds of county employees and courts employees and stuff. So I've seen different people's plans for retirement and stuff without getting into specifics. A lot of them do have goals. Some do not. So you got to really think of yourself. If you're in the midst of your career and you know that you're not retiring for another 10, 20 years, you got to really probably want to start thinking now, what are your goals? Do you want to retire early? Do you have kids that you want to maybe put through college? Are you looking to buy a home? Like right now, if it's the perfect time to buy a home if you can get a home. The interest rates are still at a low rate. It's just a matter of finding a house or another big purchase. What are your goals? What are your plans? Then you got to think about that. Okay, so let's say if I want to retire early, how much will I need? How much can I save? And then how can you track your performance? These are all things that are very important in the grand scheme of things. And like I mentioned, these are just educational tools, not me telling you this is what you should do. So the next thing is the dreaded B word, budget. Nobody likes to talk about this word because, oh man, we hear budget, we just, oh boy, we get all tightened up and we just look around like, no, we want to avoid this word, right? Well, a budget is actually very important. And a budget should not be restricting, should not be stressful. A budget is supposed to help you. So a budget is a summary of estimated income and how you will spend it over a period of time. This basically allows you to see where your money is going every month and track your spending. So like really think about it for a second. If you asked yourself this question, when you get paid twice a month or so, do you know where all your money is going in 1 month? Do you know where every dollar that you earn goes? It's a question that I asked myself, and before I did a budget, I didn't know. When I sat down and did a budget, I actually saw where my money went. It was actually pretty interesting to see where I was spending. So a budget can also help save money for your future goals or pay off debt. And now more than ever with technology, there is so many tools that are available to you through apps or online, web browsers and stuff that can help you with your budget. So like Every Dollar app that's made by Ramsey Solutions, the Mint app. People use Excel sheets or Google Docs. You don't need these fancy apps. You could just do an Excel sheet. Or there's one that YNAB. People use YNAB. I personally use Mint. I like Mint. I think it's really good. Every Dollar app is actually really good too. It's free. They're both free, and they're very easy to navigate. But it's important to kind of have that, to kind of look at your whole financial picture, because you want to be ready when you retire. You want to not have to worry. Your retirement is supposed to be that next great part of your life, right? So you want to make sure that you're prepared, so that way when you retire, you could be on a beach someplace, or whatever you want to do. If you want to go live in the mountains, or you wanted to go travel to different countries when you retire, so these are things to kind of look at. Now, the next thing here is debt management. So just here, ask yourself real quickly here, what would it look like if you had no payments, if you had no debt? You should manage your debt and debt reduction ratios. You should review your credit report at least twice a year to see if there's any type of fraudulent activity or anything like that. Now here I have listed the debt avalanche and the debt snowball. These are two commonly practiced tools here that help people pay off debt. The debt avalanche pays off your debt in order to highest to lowest interest. You pay the minimum on other debts while attacking the highest interest debt. Debt snowball, pay off your debt in the order of smallest to largest, while you make the minimum payments on all debts except the smallest, and pay as much as you can on the smallest debt. And then once that's paid off, you repeat, and it's almost like a snowball. You repeat onto the next debt. Now, I know this is not something very comforting to talk about with some people. Obviously finances are very personal, and I'm not going to get into anything like that. Just like I mentioned, these are educational tools, because these are very good things to think about when you're looking at retiring later on. That's what I'm currently looking at. I recently paid off my student loans and everything like that, so that way I'm able to buy a house and all these other things. So I have a plan to buy a house, and I will be hopefully moving into my home within the next 3 weeks, crossing my fingers. So the debt snowball really helped me do that. So these are just little tools that you can use to kind of plan your finances. Now, emergency fund or savings. So this is also important when it comes to retirement, because I mentioned right there in the pyramid for your income, most of the time your FCERA pension, deferred compensation, but your savings and personal investments are another part of that equation there that can help you for your income during retirement. Well, having an emergency fund is good. That's money set aside to cover life's unexpected expenses or events. So like if you have a flat tire, or something breaks, all these different things, you have that fund set aside for emergencies, for a rainy day. This can help reduce financial stress and can help stop adding to debt if you have that emergency fund. Experts recommend that your emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months of expenses. So that's just something to consider as well, to put that together, just to, it's always good to have some type of savings for a rainy day. Now, tools at your disposal. Like I mentioned, we live in a great age now. We live in the digital age. We have all this information at our fingertips. Like, who knew that a cell phone, a smartphone, I can literally do everything from my smartphone. I can look at my bank statements. I can make a budget. I can watch videos on YouTube, all that stuff. We're living in a great new age where we have all this technology to our fingertips. So if you're looking for tools for financial education or wellness, my first suggestion to you would be YouTube. YouTube is one of the best places that you can look for videos. So it's probably one of the more popular financial people financial enthusiasts or analysts that people watch and look for advice is Dave Ramsey. I'm pretty sure people have probably heard of that guy. Dave Ramsey is very good at what he does. He may not be for everybody. So that's the whole thing about personal finance. It's personal. So whatever you feel is going to work for you. I feel like there is a lot of different YouTubers and just analysts in general that are on that you can look on their website or on YouTube that may fit your niche. So YouTube is a great way to find out different ideas and stuff. Google is also your friend. Podcasts are very popular. Everybody seems to have a podcast now, especially it seems like more people started podcasts during the COVID pandemic. There's a lot of books at your disposal, and then you can also hire a financial planner to help keep track of your investments and everything like that. I highly recommend just kind of looking into your finances and just get an idea of what your goals are and what you want to plan for, and how can you achieve those, because hey, maybe you can retire sooner than you think. You never know without looking at that stuff. And then finally, take advantage of your deferred compensation. So deferred comp can help supplement income when you retire. Now, this is very important. This is super important if you are in tiers 4 and 5 like myself. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, tiers 1 through 3, every year they're eligible for a cost of living adjustment. Tiers 4 and 5 don't have COLA. So we're going to need something there to supplement our income. So take advantage of deferred comp. Even if you're in tiers 1 through 3, take advantage of deferred comp if you can. You can start enrolling now and investing in your future. So if you're a County of Fresno employee, we have Nationwide. Superior Courts of California have Empower. In the other special districts, contact your HR department. I recommend, if you're not enrolled in that, look into it, ask questions, find out if this is for you. You know, it's always good to no one's going to complain if you have extra money when you retire because you put a little bit of savings into it. It's definitely worth it. I have my 457 account. I contribute per pay period, and then usually what I do is every step increase I get or something like that, I bump up my percentage of contribution. But everybody's different, and I can only speak for Nationwide, but our rep for Nationwide here at the County of Fresno is Deanna Sisk. She's awesome. If you are a county employee and looking to enroll into the 457 plan and you have questions, please go to the website, seek her out, send her an email, give her a phone call. She can answer any kind of questions that you do have. Okay, and then finally, I think that's about it. We hit the end of the presentation. You guys have made it all the way through. We appreciate it. So here is just our contacts page. Email, you can email us at FCERA@FresnoCountyCA.gov. So if you would like another copy of the PowerPoint presentation, you can send us an email there. Or if you have any inquiries about retirement in general, just send us an email there. We have mailing address, our mailing address at 7772 North Palm Avenue, Fresno, California, 93711. Currently, our office is closed to the public due to the pandemic. Hopefully, with the vaccine rollout and everything like that, we can, us and other departments will start getting back into normal, and we can start having people in the office again, public back in our office. You could always give us a call at 457-0681. If you have questions, a retirement specialist will assist you. And then always check out our website as well. Our website has a lot of information on there. We update it a lot. I'm currently updating more on the website to include a multimedia section for videos and such as like webinars and little things like this. So always be on the lookout for that. Now, retirement is just ahead. So make sure it's going to be here sooner than you think. So you always want to make sure you plan and prepare for a happy retirement today. Ask questions. We're here to help. That's what we want to do. We want to help you and guide you. So feel free to call us or email us at any time to ask us questions. Now, with that being said, guys, that is the end of the presentation. So I appreciate you all hanging out here. We now can take questions. If you have more questions, we can do a Q&A section here for the rest of the time. I know we finished a lot earlier than anticipated, but we can take some time for those questions. We can hang around here. If there's no questions, and you have questions later on, you can always call our office and email. So we'll just kind of look at the chat here, and if you have any questions, please fire away. Okay. Okay, so I did see one in here that says, does the calculator let you input what you think your salary will be from years from now? Yes. So the calculator in the member portal will allow you to alter your salary there if you think that you're going to get an increase from years from now and project. Our portal does not project salaries, so you can actually override that and put in your salary amount to kind of get an idea. So you definitely can do so.
And just to elaborate on some of the additional questions that were posted in regards to the question on breaking reciprocity, In the response, the most common ways are retiring on different days from each system. That is one way to break reciprocity. Or if one of the systems allows you to refund your contributions from that system, it will break the link with the other systems. However, most of the retirement systems will do everything they can to make sure that you do not break reciprocity because of the negative effects that it can have on you. So with that, FCERA, for instance, will provide you information and have you sign an acknowledgement saying you've been advised of the consequences of breaking reciprocity prior to processing any request for refunds or retiring on different days. So we do what we can to make sure that those situations do not happen.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. Let's see here. Do you expect the COLA will go back up to 3% in the next 5 years? Maybe. The COLA, it just depends because it's based off of the I don't know the exact term, Matt. I had a brain fart.
The Consumer Price Index for the Western region.
Yes, that's the Consumer Price Index of the Western region. So if that goes up, then, if it depends. It definitely can. So it's not, I mean, that's a misconception too. When we do give out that information that we do say that it's a max of 3% a year, there are some people that assume that it is 3% a year, which is not the case.
And also, if there's ever a negative COLA, we will not take money from the retirees, so you don't have to worry about your check going down because the economy is bottomed out and the consumer price index reflects that a negative COLA should take place. Instead, you will not get a COLA increase, and we create what is called a COLA bank, where we'll put that negative percentage in and apply it to future years. So for instance, if this year was going to be a negative 1% COLA, we would not take money from the retirees that were entitled to it. But in next year's COLA, if it's supposed to be, boom, a big turnaround happened and a 3% was going to be applicable, we would look at that 3%, and then everyone who has a negative COLA bank, we would take that from the 3%. So we would take the 3% minus the negative 1 from the prior year, and you would get a 2% increase as a result. So you do not have to worry about reductions to your benefit due to a downturn in the economy and a hit on the cost of living adjustments.
Awesome. Okay. Can I also collect my Social Security benefit? Yes, you can. Your Social Security benefit and your FCERA benefit are 2 separate payments. So you can still collect Social Security. Let's see. If I choose the unmodified option, how do I determine if I should elect the TAO? Oh. So this is more of a detail-oriented conversation. So the biggest thing with the TAO, so for people that don't know, the TAO is the temporary annuity option. This is something that's available to everyone that is under the age of 62 when they process to retire. In a nutshell, this is an advancement on your Social Security. So to answer your question, how do I determine if I should elect the TAO? That's really up to you. So if you were interested to even potentially elect the TAO, when you're going through the retirement process, you would bring in an estimate of your Social Security benefit at age 62. The retirement specialist will run the calculation there of what the TAO advancement would be. So how much you would get for the TAO, with the TAO included all the way up until 62, plus your reduced benefit for the rest of your life, starting at age 62, going forward. We can't really tell you and help you determine if you should or should not take it. It's everybody's own personal situation. My guess is just look at my best way to describe that, it would be to, when you have those numbers in front of you, to especially look at the TAO numbers and look at what your actual base benefit is. If you can make the base benefit work plus your other savings and investments or whatnot, then you probably will not need to make that TAO election. But like I mentioned, everybody's situation is different. Usually you don't see members taking the TAO at age 59, 60, but we've had some people do so. and that was their own personal choice. So it's really just a comparison of numbers on what you feel comfortable with.
And just to expand on that a little bit, with the estimate that you bring in of your Social Security at age 62, you are going to want to tell them that you are not going to work any further from the date that you request that estimate, because they will project your wages out to that age 62 and give you a number that is higher than what you may actually receive. We are going to base your TAO benefit off of that estimate that you provide us. So when we go to reduce your benefit and Social Security turns out that they're going to pay you less because you did not work until age 62, that's not going to affect what we take. We're going to take the money back based off of the estimate you provided us, not based off of what Social Security actually pays you. So that is a big factor in how the tower works and how it can negatively impact you, because you're still projecting out based off of an estimate and not a solid fact number from the Social Security. So things could change, and that could have serious consequences for you.
That's perfect. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to mention that, but that's absolutely true. If you are looking at getting the TAO, you need to make sure that when you get that estimate, it's to tell them that you're not working anymore, because that, you know, that definitely can have an impact on that. Okay. Let's see. Do you know if any current legislation that may go after counties' unfounded liability retirement funds? I'm not aware of any current legislation, to be perfectly honest with you. So that's unfortunately a question I can't answer. But to my knowledge, I have not heard anything from my superiors or anything. So other than that, I can't answer that question. Let's see. Okay, tier 4 average of pay for 3 years. Is the average of my last 3 years worked, or the average of my highest paid amount for any 3 continual years? So you're in tier 4. Tier 4, and I'm going to bring that up really quick, actually. Let me get my PowerPoint up here.
And with that, I'll jump in. Tier 4 is 3 individual years. They do not have to be consecutive. The system will pull up your 3 highest years throughout your entire career. So let's say your highest 3, one was in 2015, one was in 2016, and then you got a big boost in 2020, then those would be your 3 years that are averaged out for your benefits. Tier 5 is the only one where it has to be 3 consecutive years.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for answering that. Okay. Does Social Security top out at age 70? That's a question you'll have to ask Social Security. We actually don't handle any of those we don't handle any of that. So I would recommend contacting them. Just to kind of point out too, because maybe I saw that question in the chat, or maybe I've seen that question millions of times. When you do retire, you do get paid once a month. You get paid on the last business day of the month. There are taxes that are being taken out of your pension, but that is determined by you. So when you retire and you go through the process with the retirement specialist will provide you tax forms for federal and state. You will fill those out to your own liking, and then we will take out the taxes based on your discretion of those forms. You can always update your tax information as well. So if you, after a year or so, you want to update it, you can definitely do so. So that's something I don't have in the presentation, but I just wanted to point out there as well, because that is a commonly asked question there.
And the same thing applies to if you elect to participate in direct deposit. Any tax and bank forms, we can adjust every month for you if you so choose, as long as that form is received on or before the 10th of that month, it will take effect for that month. Anything received after the 10th will take effect in the following month.
Perfect. That is okay. Let's see here. Wow. I don't think we have any other questions so far. So I guess we'll give it in a minute to see if there's another question. If not, we may be ending this webinar a little early today. So that's always a good thing.
Just to touch on some of the things that Jared spoke about with the disabilities and the divorces, I, being the person who reviews the majority of divorce documents for Fresno County, I highly recommend, if you have a divorce in your time with Fresno County, that you provide those documents to our office for review as early as possible. So this way, if it turns out that your divorce, while finalized in the fact that it returned you to single individuals, sometimes there's items that still need to be addressed and the court holds jurisdiction over those. If that's the case with your divorce documents, we're going to let you know. This way you can get that stuff taken care of before you reach your retirement date. Because if you have an outstanding divorce or outstanding divorce documents where the community property isn't addressed in a manner that we can work with, we will not be able to release a payment to you. You can retire and lock in your retirement date. However, the family law will not allow us to release a benefit to you until we have the proper legal documentation that says how the community property of your retirement is going to be divided, or if it's going to be awarded strictly to you as your sole and separate property. So I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to provide those documents to our office prior to your retirement. This way you can get everything resolved prior to your date of retirement, and you won't impact when you receive your first payment.
Awesome. Thank you for putting that information out there. That's super, super important information. Let's see here. If I retire to another country, will my direct deposit be possible in another country? My mind's blank, Matt.
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Yeah, you can take this one.
FCERA can only make deposits to banks that are based in the United States. So if let's say you bank with Wells Fargo and they have a random branch in the countryside of France, you can still have your checks deposited to Wells Fargo and pull your money out from that bank. As long as the money is going into a bank located in the United States, you can have, in most instances, that account forwarded to another bank internationally. If you do not have a bank within the United States, then a paper check would have to be mailed to you at the address that you have provided. And with that, you must keep us up to date on your address changes, because if we get too much return mail for you, we will suspend your benefit until we get confirmation of your new address, to ensure someone hasn't passed away and we're not continuing to pay benefits to a deceased individual.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. If I work at Fresno County for 20 years making $40,000, I go to another county making $80,000, work there for 3 years, tier 1, retire at $80,000 or $40,000?
That all depends on if you establish reciprocity between the two systems. If the reciprocal link is made, then each system would use the highest salary available between the two systems. So let's say you started with Fresno County and you're making $40,000, and then you go work for the state and the job you have there is paying you $80,000, and they set your final comp at $80,000. Fresno County would use that same final comp of $80,000 to determine what your benefit is based off of the years of service you have with us.
That's all right. Hopefully that answers that question there. And then I think you're going to want to take this one, Matt, because it's about divorce. I am starting the divorce process. Is there anything that I need to get you right now, or should I wait to give you the final paperwork?
FCERA does not need to be provided any of the preliminary paperwork, the petition for dissolution, or the documents, the documents where you list your assets and all of that. We need your final judgment and then any attachments to those judgments. So a lot of times the judgment will say that there's a marital settlement agreement or an attachment to judgment included or being incorporated into that judgment. And sometimes it will even list how many pages are attached. We'll need that entire attachment or that entire marital settlement agreement. So if there's 20 pages of that and 18 of them have to do with child custody and child support, we still need all 20 pages so we can confirm that there's nothing in it that may reference your retirement in a way that we cannot implement. A good reference to this is I once reviewed a case where the retirement was said to be the party's sole and separate property. However, in the part where it was covering the family stuff with the children, it specifically said that each party had to name their child as the beneficiary for retirement. So while the member got to keep their retirement as their sole and separate property, they were required by law to name their beneficiary as their child, and they could not change it. Only way you can change it is with a further court order. So it is imperative that you provide us all of the documents that are attached to that final judgment.
Okay, let's see. What documents do you need to process our retirement if the beneficiary is a parent and I've never been married with no children? So the main documents that we would need from you is we would need a copy of your birth certificate if we don't have that already. That's the most important thing. Now, we will probably not need a copy of your beneficiary's birth certificate unless you are electing to leave them a lifetime benefit. If you're not electing, if you do not want to leave them a lifetime benefit, then basically your birth certificate is what the document that we do need if we do not have it already.
So essentially what Jared is saying on that one is, if your parent is going to be your named beneficiary and you do not want to leave elect option 2 or 3 or potentially even 4, we will not need that beneficiary's birth certificate because the unmodified option does not need that, and neither does option 1. So unless you want to ensure that that person receives a guaranteed benefit, we will not need a birth certificate for any named beneficiary under options 2 or 3 or even potentially 4.
Thank you, Matt. Oops. Let's see here. Wow, did we answer everything? I think we did. Okay. Well, I'll give it another minute. If there's no other questions, I think then we'll probably wrap up here. So, is there anything? Oh, I say that as I say that we get something. How do we know what option we have selected? So, when you are going through the retirement process with the retirement specialist, in the initial counseling session that you sit down with them, the retirement specialist will go over all the options that are available to you, the different amounts, how they affect you, how they affect your beneficiary. Then later on, when after the initial counseling session, there will be a document called the option election form that you will need to sign. That form there is going to is where you elect what option that you want to take for your retirement benefit. Once you make that election is final. And you will also get a copy of that to take home as well for your records, and we have it on file with us. So that's kind of how we know what option that we have that you've selected, is that you get a copy of that, and once you start receiving payments, that option will be reflected in the member portal as well to show which one you've selected.
And with that, we do keep copies of all documents on file. So if 20 years down the line, you can't find your option election form, which would not be surprising. You know, some people move and, you know, archive things, and sometimes a rodent gets into the attic and goes through your boxes, you know. You can always contact the Retirement Association and request copies of your option election form, and then we will mail those to the address we have on file.
Okay, let's see here. If I move to a tax-free state when I retire, will my benefits be tax-free? So if you're paying no income state tax, then you would still have, if you elect to have federal withholding taken out, you're still going to have federal withholding. Your benefit is still taxable, but if you go to like Nevada or something, you just need to make sure that you fill out a out-of-state tax form electing no withholding. That's very, very important, especially that brings up another good point, because Matt mentioned someone moving, you can move when you retire. You need to always make sure that if you do move, especially move to another state that has no state income tax, you're going to need to fill out two things. So you're going to need to make sure that you fill out the out-of-state tax form and then the change of address form. So that way we know where you are, because when you get your payments, you get a check stub from our bank in the mail each month. If you move and do not notify us of your new current address, then after a couple of statements not getting mailed correctly, they will come back to us, and then we will stop your payment until we have confirmation that you have moved and we get a current address for you.
Okay, Jared, I'll take the next couple.
Okay.
So the ones that I'm going to call out is you said that we cannot change the beneficiary with the options, but what happens if the person dies before you retire? Can you change to a new beneficiary? Yes, you can change your beneficiary anytime before retirement, as long as the beneficiary that you're removing is not a spouse. If it is a spouse, you can still remove them, but we're going to need either a death certificate or your divorce documents, so we know whether or not there's going to be a division of property. If it's any other beneficiary, a child, a parent, your neighbor, second cousin to Harvey the Red, it doesn't matter to us. You can change that beneficiary anytime you want prior to retirement. Your beneficiary is only locked in after you retire and you receive that first payment, if you've elected option 2, option 3, or option 4. With that said, that'll tie into the next question that we have. Can you select more than one beneficiary? Yes, you can select more than one beneficiary. If you're still an active employee, you can have primary beneficiaries, which typically are a spouse, and then you can name your children as the contingent. So if something unforeseen were to happen to you and your spouse while you're on your second honeymoon, your kids would be named as the beneficiaries, and we would reach out to them. If they're minors, then we would reach out to the guardian that's in charge of them as minors. At the time of retirement, if you want to leave a continuing benefit to more than one beneficiary, that's where the option 4 comes in, and you can name whatever percentage you want to those beneficiaries. However, that will have an impact on the benefit that you receive. As the more beneficiaries you name, the greater the reduction to your benefit, because the system will be paying out to more individuals for a longer period of time, and that can have a drastic effect on your retirement benefit.
Okay. All right. Seems like we got through all of them again. So if there is, I'll give it another minute here. The last time I did this, we had like questions pop up like this. So I'll give it another minute. If there isn't any other questions, I think then that will probably do it for us for today. Let's see.
Now, with that said, if there are no other questions here, but you have questions that are more specific to your unique case that you don't want discussed during this presentation, you can call our office and ask to speak to a retirement specialist. If it's something disability or divorce related, you can call and ask for me directly. Just call and ask for Matt, or just tell them that you want to discuss some divorce or disability things, and odds are you're going to come across my desk. So you're more than welcome to reach out to me. And also on our member portal, or the FCERA website, I should say, with the About Us, you do have the profiles of the specialists there, and I believe our specific emails are there. So you can send me emails directly if you have specific divorce or disability related questions. If you have questions regarding service retirement matters or general retirement questions, I recommend using the webmail, as it'll go into a larger pool of specialists that can address those for you in a timely manner.
Yep, perfect. Oh, thank you for being here and attending. We appreciate the feedback. Actually, I forgot to mention too. Like, I know that like half the audience probably left already during the Q&A, but everybody's going to get a survey at the end, probably tomorrow. You'll get a survey. Just I would appreciate your feedback because we definitely are going to be doing more of these webinars and virtual content and stuff. So we definitely want feedback on what we're doing good and what would you like to see and things like that.
And we just had the question come through.
Yep.
So can an original divorce decree be scanned and sent to the web address so that the beneficiary can be changed? Yes, we can take divorce documents via the webmail. The divorce documents must be in PDF format. So scanning them through a printer or a scanner that has the capabilities is perfectly fine. They can be sent over to the webmail that way. And then we will go ahead and process them from that.
Again, a lot of good divorce questions and stuff today, so that's really good information. Let's see, are we going to get another one? Okay, well, is there anything, Matt, that you think that we didn't cover on today that might be of importance to mention real quick before we end the webinar today?
Nothing is jumping out at me, just that everyone's case is unique. So if we answered questions and it didn't sound quite specific enough for you, once again, just reach out to us and provide us with your question, and we'll be able to answer something a little bit more specifically to you. One thing to say is we will not release any of your specific information unless we can confirm your identity. We do that with specific questions to your file, and then we'll be able to answer things a little bit more directly. Otherwise, you'll get specific general answers to the questions that you ask. Some people that call me still want to remain anonymous. So they'll give me general situations with specific information. What if I were to get divorced at this time and my ex is going to get some of my retirement? What would it be if I was married this long, but I worked this long and the community property was set at this? I can answer questions like that in general terms without you revealing your name, just so I can give you an idea of how things are typically calculated. And then we also have a lot of the divorce information available online, including we will soon have sample DROs available online, which is the standard way we prefer to have divorce documents provided to us when there is a confirmed division of property. And then until they are available on our website, you can contact me directly and I can provide those to you. And then we also have a question for, what about birth certificates? Can they be scanned as PDF? Yes, that is fine. You can provide those to us via email as well, as long as they are in PDF format. If you don't have the ability to scan, you can send them to our office with a note saying, originals, please make copies and send originals back to me. And then staff will do that upon receipt. That goes for birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates, divorce documents, power of attorneys, anything that you send over to us that we need to process your file, you can ask for the originals to come back to you and we will process it that way.
Mm-hmm. Just make sure too, the other thing is if you are, and this is kind of a little different than what you were saying too, Matt, is if you are looking to change your beneficiary and fill out a beneficiary change form, you do need to mail the original to our office. We do need the wet signature because that's updating your beneficiary and benefits.
That is correct. There are a couple of forms where we need the original wet signatures in order for us to process those. Go ahead and give the office a call so you can confirm whether or not a copy or a scan will work for what you're trying to submit over to our office. Just to make sure that there is an additional time for processing, because we have to send things back to you because we needed an original signature. Typically calling the main line, the receptionist will be able to inform you what we need wet signatures on.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. Well, it seems like every time we try to end it, there's more questions, which is a good thing. We want people to ask questions, but if there is no more questions, then I just want to personally thank you all again for being here and attending today's webinar. We will be trying to put out more content and more webinars in the future. Look out for more lunch and learn webinars during the lunch hour about specific retirement topics. I'll be hosting those. There should be another one next month. We're working on confirming dates and having a schedule put out, so that way you can pick which ones you would like to go to. And then just check out our website. We're always constantly updating it with new information and things like that. So that way you can kind of keep up to date with what's going on and having access to all that information to your fingertips. As Matt and I've said, if you have any questions, feel free to call us, email us, and we're here to help. We'll be glad to answer any type of questions that you have. Other than that, I want to thank Matt for helping me out today. Appreciate it. Again, everybody, thank you all for being here. If you have any other questions, feel free to email us, call our office. We're here to help. Other than that, be on the lookout for a survey that you guys will all get probably within the next day or two. And just give me your feedback on what you thought about today's webinar. With that said, thank you guys for being here again. Have a good rest of the day and stay safe out there.